This episode is brought to you by Raycon.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Final Fantasy VII Remake, a game I've been looking forward to for like a fucking decade, it feels like. I don't know how long it's been, but I remember like PS3 trailers that would leak, and I'd scour game forums like I was a fucking archaeologist trying to clean some finds off and find the diamonds or the truth. And, I'd go on GameFAQs and I'd find posts like, hey, look at these real screenshots from Final Fantasy VII Remake. These were in an old computer that was thrown away in a dumpster outside Area 51. It's real. So I've been keeping up with this shit for a long time, and having it come out is super special. Final Fantasy 7 through 10 are among my favorite games ever created, and I think they are timeless masterpieces. You can still go back and enjoy them today. They've stood the test of time. I replayed them like 8 years ago, which admittedly isn't the most recent replaying, but still. Great games, and I'm happy to say Final Fantasy VII Remake met my expectations for the most part, and in certain cases even exceeded them. So let's obviously start with the narrative. Final Fantasy VII Remake is extremely true to the original. It only covers about 15% of the original's content because this is part 1, and it does it beautifully. Now, it only covers that 15%, but it expands it, and it's not all just filler. I was worried it'd be mainly just tedium and filler, and yes, that is definitely present, especially with a lot of forgettable nonsense side quests where you'll kill 5 rats in the middle of nowhere because some guy's trying to piss on a cactus and doesn't like the rats bothering him, or you'll be in a town and you'll have to go find a magic vending machine that you show an orb to and then it gives you a bottle of hot sauce. So there's definitely some garbage side quest shit here that's just for padding, and especially when it comes to some of the puzzles even during the main quest, it just seems like tedium for the sake of tedium. But other than that, the story and the actual expansions and new shit they add here is excellent. In the original, it only took about 6 hours to be done with everything Midgar had to offer. In this, it took me 28 hours. I fucking streamed 16 hours straight just now and beat the game because I was just so engrossed in the adventure and the characters. There is so much more character development and character growth, and you really care more about the characters in this game than in the original for the 15%. I'm not talking about the entirety of Final Fantasy VII original, of course. I'm only focusing on the Midgar arc. This gives so much more character depth to the characters that were present in that beginning chapter. It is excellent, and I don't know how you could even make an argument for the opposite. There is so much more you do with the characters. There's a lot more going on with them that you get to experience. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but you go on special missions for some of the characters, learning more about their motivations, what they're like. It's just a lot more, especially for Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse. It's just great. I absolutely love a lot of the new shit they put in here. I don't love all of it, but for the overall, I'd say most of the new additions here fit very well. And the fact that it is so true to the original and its main story points is great because you get to see those incredible moments brought up to the next level, brought into the 22nd century because this game is so fucking beautiful and visually stunning that it just seems so far ahead of everything else. Like the cinematics in this game and a lot of the choreography during their fights, especially towards the end, is jaw-dropping. Really incredible stuff with a great soundtrack that just slaps asshole. This shit is banging constantly. The soundtrack in this game is nothing but straight fire bangers that make you want to slap your mother. It is incredible work that really amps up the cinematics here. But seeing all of those moments from the original taken to this level of care and passion and seeing them unfold, it's just an absolute joy. Now, while we're still talking about narrative, I have to say I absolutely understand why people towards the end of the game may have been very turned off. And it's also where I have a lot of problems with where the narrative goes too. With no spoilers, the game does get very, very Kingdom Heartsy. A lot of the stuff it does is very reminiscent of some of the shit Kingdom Hearts does, and I can absolutely see why it would leave a sour taste of diarrhea in a Final Fantasy fan's mouth. That being said, if you're not already a Final Fantasy fan or haven't played the original, I don't think you're going to have a problem with the direction this game goes. And I actually really like the idea behind the direction that they're taking Final Fantasy VII. I actually do appreciate what they're trying to do. I just think the execution is weak, and they may not have made the best decision only focusing on such a small portion of the original. Again, with no spoilers, I don't want to get too deep into it, but I do like kind of the idea of what they want to do. So I can respect that, but the execution, especially with some of the stuff they throw in at the end, is just weird. It just seems very messy and could get very messy and silly going forward with the next parts that they add for Final Fantasy here. Now, moving on to gameplay. The gameplay is not turn-based combat, which disappoints me. I'm a fan of turn-based combat. I think turn-based combat is timeless. Like I said, the shit still works. It's fun enough. It's not always fun. Grinding in turn-based is never fucking fun. But grinding in general in most games isn't fun. It's not in this one either, but the combat's enjoyable. The combat's flashy, it's fluid, it works well, and it is fun to fight good bosses. Although, unfortunately, when playing through the game on normal, most of the enemies, even just trash mobs, are very spongy. They just take so much damage and so much time, a lot of effort just to dispel 4 fucking squids that fly around or 3 seahorses that spin in a circle. It takes a lot of fucking time because they take so much damage. Even if you're just perfectly exploiting weaknesses, constantly going for staggers, it's still just a time investment that becomes a slog towards the end. I don't have a problem with the gameplay itself, mainly just the enemies make it not fun. I don't think it was necessarily difficult, it was just tedious and became a chore to go through fights from point A to point B. Some of the bosses were fun, but others were genuinely just sponges that you'd have to wait for a damage phase or a vulnerability phase with nothing else to do. So, I do like the combat though. It's fun to switch between characters, queue up a bunch of different abilities and have them work together, exploit weaknesses. It just takes a while to actually kill something when doing that. Of course, the combat's very deep. There's a lot of depth to the combat and preparation for fights. Obviously, collecting tons of materia, different links, different build. Well, not really builds, but different ways you can organize your characters and your parties to do different things. It's just, there's a lot of depth to it, which I can absolutely always appreciate. Now, another thing I will say is there is like some pacing oddities in this game. I won't even say it's bad pacing because it really doesn't feel like the pacing is shitty or anything. It just feels very odd at times. And it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's something I felt was worth noting. I want to say, I really like the fucking voice acting in this game. It's not like the best voice acting of all time. It's not like stellar. You're not going to be jerking off really like, oh, these characters are fucking real. The voice acting's really selling me or anything. But it's so cheesily great between the writing and the execution of the lines. There's so much cheese and corniness to it and just so much life to the characters that I just fucking love it. It's just so much fun. All of the characters have very serious moments, of course, but also just really goofy, cute moments between another, letting you know that they're friends. They're becoming friends. Cloud's cold heart is starting to warm up as he gets closer with the group, and you see him go for high fives that he's been shying away from for the last fucking 10 hours of the game. It's really, really enjoyable stuff. I was fucking smiling during half the goddamn game when it was getting cute. A lot of times you'll, feel very awkward with some of the shit that goes on, but that's kind of the point. That's kind of the charm sometimes, and I really like that. There's really nothing I have to critique about the writing in terms of its dialogue and the way the characters are executed, except for maybe it gets very edgy at times. Like sometimes it's needlessly edgy with some of the lines it gives and a bit pretentious, but it's not a big deal. It's not that big of a complaint. So plugging this bad boy into the moist meter, I'm giving Final Fantasy VII Remake an 85%. There is a lot of problems here, and there is a lot of narrative things I didn't agree with or appreciate that makes me very worried for its future going forward, but I do remain cautiously optimistic with what they do next, and there are obvious flaws that cannot be overlooked with the enemies becoming a real fucking chore. There's just clear tedium and padding for the sake of padding, It's clear that they wanted to stretch this out as long as possible, especially when it comes to like some motorcycle shit. There's like a fucking motorcycle thing towards the end that lasts like an hour, like a straight hour that you cannot really speed up no matter how fucking great you are. It's just, there is genuine padding that is just blatant. But all of that considered, the game is extraordinary, and I had an incredible time with it. It is a beautiful game that I really, really enjoyed, and I very much would say it was worth the wait. I wasn't disappointed. There were things that I felt were lacking, but on the other side of that coin, there were things that I felt were just fucking spectacular. So that's it. I'd like to again talk about Raycon wireless earbuds right now because I think right now wireless earbuds are extremely important. I've talked about Raycon multiple times in the past. I mainly use it when I'm doing active work, such as working out at the gym. But with quarantine kicking in, you're not going to the gym, but it's no excuse not to be active. And calisthenic work, body weight exercises, that requires a lot of movement. That's just going to be super uncomfortable with a wire. Raycon wireless earbuds doesn't have that problem. Super comfortable, super easy, and they're just a fantastic set of wireless earbuds. One thing I've started doing is jump roping. Couldn't even imagine doing that shit with a wire on it. It would be a total, utter disaster. I'd be yanking it out of my ear and screaming and crying all the time. Don't have that problem with Raycon. They sound just as amazing as the other top audio brands you know, but they come in at half the cost. Also, their everyday E25s are their best model right now, so I'd recommend those if you're interested. So if you want to get yourself a pair of Raycon wireless earbuds, you can go to buyraycon.com/moist to get 15% off your order, or just click the link in the description. That's buyraycon.com/moist for 15% off. So yeah.